Serial killer took the lives of 12 men and did unspeakable things to their remains, which included dissolving their bodies in acid, eating their flesh and preserving certain parts of their bodies to create a shrine. He lured the men back to his house under the pretense that they would pose for photographs, but once there, would drug and strangle them. It seems almost incomprehensible that nobody nearby suspected anything was amiss, but as several of Dahmer's neighbors would later admit, they could detect a foul smell coming from his apartment, coupled with strange noises. For the few people that complained to Dahmer directly about the smell, he would give all sorts of excuses, from rotting pork chops to the death of his tropical fish. Unfortunately, most people believed these lies. One woman, however, saw through his facade. Glenda Cleveland, who lived in the opposite building, was instrumental in notifying police about Dahmer's strange behavior, but she struggled to get anyone to take her claims seriously. "I called y'all and I told you over and over a million times that something was going on, and you know what you did? Y'all did nothing," Niecy Nash yells down the phone, portraying Cleveland in the Netflix show Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. Cleveland was highly suspicious of Dahmer, but it was the sighting of 14-year-old Konerak Sinthasomphone that sent her over the edge. In May of 1991, Cleveland, her daughter, Sandra Smith, and her niece Nicole Childress, saw a naked teenage boy running away from Dahmer's building in the early hours of the morning. He appeared confused and scared, prompting Cleveland to call the police immediately. Once officers arrived, Dahmer returned to the building shortly after, to find everyone outside. He managed to convince police that Sinthasomphone was his 19-year-old lover who was also an alcoholic. The police believed him, and allowed Dahmer to take him back inside, despite the women protesting. "We tried to give the policeman our names, but he just told us to butt out," Smith told AP News. "I couldn't understand why he didn't want our names. I said, what are you going to do about this?" Even more disturbingly, just 2 years prior to Konerak's murder, Dahmer was convicted of second-degree sexual assault against Konerak's brother, then 13. He was freed after spending 10 months in jail and placed on 5 years probation. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Cleveland later contacted the FBI to alert them to Dahmer's behavior, but was ignored once again. Dahmer would go on to kill 4 more men after Sinthasomphone. Cleveland, who was a woman of color living in a low socioeconomic area, had an incredibly difficult time being taken seriously by authorities, who were incredibly dismissive of her genuine concerns. While Monster, Dahmer, gets several key details right, the biopic did fictionalize several elements. Most notably, it depicts Cleveland as a resident of Dahmer's building, which she actually wasn't. It also meshes the story of another neighbor, which sees Dahmer deliver Cleveland a sandwich which he claimed contained pulled pork. Pamela Bass, who resided in the same building as Dahmer, revealed in the Jeffrey Dahmer Files that he would make his neighbors sandwiches. "If someone asked you to write a horror story, this would be some of the stuff you would write," she said. What happened to Glenda Cleveland? Sadly, she passed away at 56 years old in 2010 from cardiovascular disease and excessive blood pressure. In the years before her death, she spent her time looking after relatives and getting her life back to normal. "Hers was a story I did not know," Nash told Netflix in an interview, when asked about her portrayal of Cleveland in the show. "Glenda was one of his victims too, and her story has been told the least. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, to tell this story, specifically through Glenda's lens, as it had never been done before. That comes with a lot of responsibility, because you want to make sure you get it right,"